There he is, the drummer. Right after the drummer, you always jump in. OverDrive, Jim Tatti, Dave Feschuk from the Toronto Star, AB, Mike DiStefano, Al's brother, whatever. How are you?
Doing well, gentlemen. Doing very, very well on a Wednesday.
Hump day. Dave, how are you?
Couldn't be better. Couldn't be better. It's a little chilly out there.
That was
Weird.
kind of a comprehensive, not comprehensive, a pensive. Couldn't be better. You were sort of adjusting it as you got to the second. Couldn't be better. Yeah.
It feels like summer's over.
Well, yeah. Well, 3 straight days cool in August.
Yeah.
When does that happen?
The hockey deals are coming fast and furious. The cold weather's here. I don't get it.
Hot take. I don't mind it.
Oh.
I don't mind this weather. I mean, once it starts dipping below this and we start to see a little bit of white stuff on the ground, that's when I got issues.
No,
I'll
don't
take
do that.
this, though.
Don't do that.
I'll take this for like another 3-4 months for sure.
Getting dark earlier as I got home last night.
Yeah.
But it was cloudy, but still I go, oh, there goes that.
No, I need the heat, man. I want the late September heat. I don't want this early
It'll come
chill.
back. It'll come back.
Yeah, probably.
That's what happens in today's world.
Coming up in the broadcast, bottom of the hour, Erik Kratz will be by, former Major League catcher, former Blue Jay, host of Foul Territory, the podcast. Later on, Marty Baron at 5:05 on the Maple Toyota hotline. Cole Sillinger just signed again with the Columbus Blue Jackets. 2 years at, 2.25? He's going to be by at 5:30. Sideswiped. Yes guy, no guy. Just pushed it right out of the way.
How's that make you feel, Tat, man?
I'm good with that.
Is that a statement from Doogie?
No, I don't know. It doesn't bother me.
Show?
Yeah, yes guy, no guy lives forever. But anyway, 6:05, Matthew Shinnetti will stop by. And at 6:30, Mike Wright will stop by, co-host of Fantasy Footballers podcast.
AB, fantasy football, are you getting excited?
I listen to his show. I'm a big fan of called Mike the Hitman Wright from Fantasy Footballers. He's a very smart guy. And here's the thing about fantasy football too. In order to know fantasy football, like you got to know everything. Like we could throw anything at this guy. You could talk about the 4th string running back on like the Jacksonville Jaguars. He could go on a solid 3-minute diatribe as to what his fantasy value will be, how many snaps he's got him projected for. I'm telling you, I'm going to throw something at him a little later on. And I guarantee you, maybe like both you guys never heard this name, and he'll go on for a solid 2 minutes about it.
Sounds like Mel Kiper with humor.
Basically, it's what he is. He's Mel Kiper, but with fantasy football.
And where are you on this? Like, Tatti, you've already proclaimed yourself not a fantasy guy.
Not a fantasy
No guy?
No.
I'm a no guy on the fantasy.
Really?
too.
That kind of surprised me.
Well,
Dave.
I like, I will wager on some. I get involved in some pools,
Right.
NFL pool,
full season team pick'ems.
season, Survivor, that type of stuff. That's how I stay engaged. But you, I think, I'm guessing you are a full fantasy, multiple team dude.
I am. I had my career high last year was 5 teams. So
Whoa.
I was
5 fantasy teams.
It was a bit of a juggle.
Wow.
I will say it's a bit of a juggle right around waiver wire time, and it's a commitment. I'll say that fantasy football is a commitment to lifestyle. Some would say, but it's a lot of fun. I mean, I enjoy it.
What's the bigger commitment? Just to put this in perspective for those of us who do not play fantasy, if you had to say having a dog or having 5 fantasy football teams, what is the bigger responsibility?
That's a good. I mean, who?
What's more regular?
You know what though? Like here's the thing: you can neglect your football team. You can't neglect your dog, right? You got to take your dog out for walks multiple times a day. But I'll tell you this: if you think about how much time you spend with your dog, as opposed to how much time you spend on the app, whichever app you're using for your fantasy league, it's probably you spend more time on fantasy than you do with your dog.
Wow,
I would think
That's a big commitment.
I mean, throughout the day,
extremely sad.
you're in there. Depends on the day. Depends
Come
on the day too.
Now, are you-
But do you
Game
get,
day, waiver
you get
day?
the emotional support from your fantasy teams?
Oh, not often. Often it's the opposite. That's when the dog needs to come in and on a Monday night after a bad beat, you need a good solid 30 minutes of cuddling with the pooch.
So you're coming off a 5-team season. Where did your teams rank? Like your best team versus your worst team? Did you have any big moments? How did it go?
I mean, I was kind of all over the place. I had a team that was pretty junk, didn't make the playoffs a couple times. A couple teams that did. I finished atop of the standings in the regular season and got jobbed in the semis. I didn't win any championships last year, so that's a disappointment. No rings to add. I've won before, so I have tasted the champagne of victory, but not last year, sadly. This year, though, it's a new season.
Yeah.
guaranteeing a championship at some
More than 5 teams, though. You're not a repetitive
I can't do more
guy.
than that. I can't do more
Really?
than that. No way.
You don't want to see what the limit is?
I don't even know if I'm going to hit 5 this year. I've committed to 4. I don't know if I'm going to commit to a 5th.
That's picking your spots.
I don't know.
I thought more of you, I have to say.
It's tough, Tatti. It's tough.
No, you have to go until you can't do anymore.
I think I hit that point at 5. The problem is I was out of work last year for the first couple of months of the football season, so I had more time. I don't know if I got that time this month.
Okay,
and
fair enough.
And just to refresh my memory on the great OverDrive, football picking situation, where did we leave it? Is Hazen Bro still a thing?
Well, it depends who you ask. I did receive a congratulations handshake from Rod.
Mm-hmm.
He did come in and congratulate me, Commissioner Rod, on the championship. I took that as we won. They still believe that it was a tie because they won the regular season, we won the playoffs, but apparently the playoffs doesn't matter anymore.
In what sport would that be a reality? In what
That's
sport?
what I'm saying, Tat Man.
Yeah, and where does that happen?
Exactly.
Nowhere.
So you're
Nowhere.
saying,
It's all about the playoffs.
Wow.
You're saying Owen Wilson, O-Dog and Wilson you're saying they're claiming victory, and you, Hayes and Bro, also are claiming victory.
At the very least, they're claiming a tie.
They're claiming a tie.
They're claiming a tie. And look, no one likes a tie.
Okay.
No one likes
Send your complaint to my office.
That's basically
I'll rectify
a
it.
loss.
Well, I was going to say you had the commissioner. What in that situation? I'm kind of surprised that Hayes didn't bring.
I don't know. Doogie had a chance to come over the top, but he didn't decide to come in and say who was going to be a champion.
Who's running this show?
I don't know.
Wow, it's out of control.
I'll stop you right there. I think I did claim you guys were the winners.
There you go. We finally have an answer.
There was a tweet up on X. It was all official.
That is true. There was that tweet, but then there was some controversy afterwards because they had won so many games in the regular season, and all of a sudden the last couple of weeks. But hey, that's what the playoffs are all about, right? Once you make it to the dance, it's a brand new ball game. It's a brand new season. Call yourself the regular season champs. Go ahead.
Yeah.
But we are the playoff champs, and that's all that matters. That's all I got to say.
Who won the division? Who cares? Won the Super Bowl,
That's a
right?
great
Exactly.
point.
Yeah, great. You're a division winner. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, Toronto Maple Leafs, last they won the division. What happened to them? I think it was a first-round exit.
Thank you. Thanks for the reminder. It slipped my mind.
Exactly.
Jays had no trouble last night, 10-3, and you and Doogie were all over the parlays. I mean, you must have won some money there.
Little bit. I wish right at the end, we were like when we came off, we were even going back at each other. Oh, this one might be a good one. La Perfido could get a hit there. What about an RBI from Springer? An RBI from Will Wagner.
Wags.
From Wags. Sorry, that's your guy now, Wags. I mean, those balls were juice last night. They were popping those out. It was like Oprah. You get a homer, and you get a homer, and you get a homer. It was crazy. Season high 5 home runs out of the Blue Jays last night.
And George Springer with 2.
It's what everybody had envisioned all season long, but it finally happened.
Well, so how does that make you guys feel? This is it's not a good team that they're playing. We can
at this point,
the rookie who came up, he's not a strong pitcher, but still.
At this point, all you want is the kids to put some numbers up.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go to bank on that. Like I wouldn't take the last 6 weeks of this season and say, well, he hit 350. That means he's going to hit 350 next year. It doesn't work that way.
No.
But at the same time, I wouldn't be negative towards the guy for hitting 3. At least there's something to work with.
Right.
If you've got something there, the question is, what is it? Better than not having anything.
Yeah. Look, it's kind of like it's a little. Obviously, it's a lot too little, too late for the Blue Jays. For anybody to get too excited about anything.
That's how I feel. It's like now
Tempered.
you're giving this to me.
It's nice, but
it's in some ways it's not even nice. Like the Blue Jay fans that I know are in a pretty foul mood right now. Right? They're tuned out. It's a lost cause season, so these games aren't of any consequence. And I guess if you've got young guys, to your point, if you've got young guys that are performing and showing that there's something there, if Wags is a guy that you can go forward with, that's a good sign. But everybody knows they're going to need so much more than just a bunch of young guys that they fetched in these trade deadline deals.
Yeah,
they're going to need a lot more than that.
For sure.
The shopping list is so long that I don't think anybody's particularly impressed with anything that's come in the door in the wake of the deadline.
I do have a note here. Blue Jays pushing the rotation back a day. Schneider says beginning with Chris Bassitt tomorrow. This is partly to set them up for a Boston doubleheader. Tomorrow's TBD for now with Yarborough, one option. That comes from Keegan Matheson.
Go with the starter, little bullpen day to set up that doubleheader.
Yeah.
Isn't Danny Jansen's got that weird situation in this game, doesn't he? Where he technically, the Blue Jays have to pull him. They technically have to pull him out of the game in order for the Red Sox to use him. I'm pretty sure that is.
I did read that. Yeah, I don't know why that would exist since he's no longer employed by the Blue Jays. But I guess the technicality.
Because the game that they had played earlier in the season was called off.
Yeah.
Right. So that game, they're just resuming the game where Danny Jansen was a Blue Jay.
Yeah.
So now, he, in order for him to become an active player for the Red Sox, he's got to be taken out by the Blue Jays.
Well, I guess they got caught. I don't think it's ever happened before. So,
well, if you're Toronto, you take it. Like, what do you do? Leave him in. Let's go. I don't want to be pitching against Danny Jansen.
Going to get stiffed.
Maybe you do. He hasn't been that good.
We're going to have Cole Sillinger on later. So his deal was, 2 years at 2.25. So that's a guy coming out of an entry-level contract. And that sort of speaks to what we've been talking about earlier in the week with the two guys that left Edmonton for St. Louis. We're also stepping out of those contracts. This one, for whatever reason, seems reasonable, but not exorbitant. And sometimes you hit the wall with the pay dirt, and sometimes you don't. This is pretty fair.
Yeah, I think you got, I wonder how much, I don't know if it's fair to say that teams maybe got spooked by the Edmonton situation where now there's a threat that an offer sheet could be afoot. Because for many years, there's not even a threat. You could just use the leverage you have as a general manager. You've got an RFA where they don't really have a whole lot to work with. Now, if there's that threat, okay, maybe we want to get some of these guys signed because maybe some other teams who missed out on the Broberg, missed out on the Holloway, maybe they'll go sniffing around. Let's just get these guys signed, especially a team like Columbus. It's not as though they're in a cap crunch. They can afford to overpay a guy, an extra $500,000 or so on a season, and it's not going to hurt them over the next couple of years through the duration of this contract. But, good for him, young player. Started out really well in his rookie season and then kind of, hit a sophomore slump and somewhat bounced back last year. So he'll be going into his fourth season this upcoming year with the Columbus Blue Jackets. I'll be curious to see what he's been up to this summer to try and, better his game and come into this offseason ready to compete for a spot.
Well, the numbers don't exactly jump off the page, though.
No, they don't.
This is a guy with 32 points last year, 13 goals, played 77 games. And he was getting decent ice time at 16 minutes a night. So considering he's kind of a shoot-first guy, he's not exactly
he might have
an all-star in waiting.
No, it doesn't appear so, but he might have to be one of those players who's got to adjust his game. That happens all the time in the NHL. You absolutely tear it up in junior or even when you're a kid in Pee Wee, and you tear it up when you get to the Dub or the O or wherever, and then you get to the NHL and, you're not the best anymore. You're not the fastest. You're not the biggest. You're not the strongest. So what can you do? How do you adapt? And how can you make yourself useful to the team? And for a guy like Cole Sillinger, well, he's looking ahead of him on the depth chart, and you've got a guy like Adam Fantilli. They signed Sean Monahan to be a top six centerman with that big contract this offseason. So for him, it's like, okay, I might have to carve out a role as a bottom six player. And if that's the case, we know you got to dig in. You got to grind a little bit more. You might not get the sexy stats, and he might have to change his game. I think of a guy like Sam Bennett, for example. When he was in Kingston, he was a high point producer, right? He went 4th overall to the Calgary Flames. Now what is he? He's still a good player, but he's not known as a point producer. He had to change his game, right? TJ Brody, as a defenseman, went from being an offensive, I don't call him a dynamo, but very offensive, put up a lot of points early in his career, transitioned into a defensive defenseman once he got here, late in the stages in Calgary and into Toronto. So maybe he's got to change his mindset and adapt and change his game a little bit too.
No doubt about it. But it is an interesting story. You got a guy, he was born in Columbus when his dad, Mike Sillinger, was playing for the Blue Jackets and now playing for the Blue Jackets. Because Mike Sillinger, as you were pointing out in the cafeteria, Al's brother, Mike Sillinger is one of the great suitcases in the history of the NHL, right?
Yeah.
Guaranteed trade deadline day story.
Yeah.
12 different teams. And his career high, guys, Mike Sillinger's, Papa Sillinger's career high with one team was 155 games played with the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Suns already played more in 3 years, 220 with the Blue Jackets, and now
not
a 2-year
traded
deal, and hasn't yet to be traded.
Not yet.
So it's not exactly like father, like son.
So RFA is still out there, and I was looking at the list. There are, I think, around 12 or 13 teams that would have $6 million plus to spend if they were so inclined. So it would knock out. It wouldn't be any of these guys: Jeremy Swayman, Sider, Detroit; Raymond, Detroit; Seth Jarvis, Thomas Hartley. These guys are the two Detroit guys. I mean, I remember reading stories going into the draft where they were supposed to be signed, and now, 2 months later, still not signed for whatever reason.
Well, there's a lot of that going on around the league, right? I mean, there's plenty of foot dragging on these late summer deals. People are sort of, I guess it is obviously heating up. Doug Armstrong and Stan Bowman have been hard at work the past couple of weeks, but
these are all big ticket guys too.
Yeah,
well,
sure.
The one that kind of intrigues me there is Jeremy Swayman. And I'm still shocked that they went ahead and traded Linus Ullmark to Ottawa without having that deal kind of,
done,
like for lack of a better word. Yeah. like solidified. And he's clearly now their number one, and he's got to take on a big bulk of the load. They don't have him done yet. They don't have that contract signed yet. And I believe he declined arbitration. He had a chance to go to arbitration
That's
again.
right.
Last year he didn't go so well. He talked about publicly how he did not enjoy the process, and most players come out saying that's the case. It's not a fun process. So he decided not to go to arbitration this year and just figured we'll figure something out. Well, we're sitting here. It's now what? August 21st. No deal yet. About 3 weeks away from training camp. I think it'll come, but it is kind of peculiar that they haven't got it done yet.
And in some cases, the player can ask for arbitration. Sometimes you're arbitration eligible, but sometimes you can ask for it, hoping that forces the team to work out a deal before the arbitration.
Right.
And I don't know what happens with these guys. Obviously they didn't, and I don't know if they were eligible, but these are all big ticket guys. And really, when you look at who they are, they're important to their franchises.
For sure.
Who knows why they're still out there?
Yeah, well, look, Swayman's obviously incredibly important to the Boston Bruins, and it is kind of a fascinating order of events, right? The fact that they've had this embarrassment of riches in net, and then they let Ullmark go to the Senators, which really puts the leverage in terms of the contract negotiation,
but then
squarely in the court of Swayman.
It did, and then until he kind of decided not to go in the arbitration route.
Well,
then that almost evens it out, doesn't it?
Why does it though?
Well, because now
they need him.
But what is he going to do going forward? Like now he's not guaranteed a contract next year until he signs on the dotted line. At least if you go through arbitration, like that's you're signing, you're playing. That's the deal.
Yeah.
Whatever the arbitrator decides
but it's just short term.
Yeah, but
1 or 2 years. We're looking at more here.
Guys, I got news for you.
Oh yeah.
He's guaranteed a contract because I guarantee you the Bruins are going to sign him because the Bruins need him. What's their other option? Korpisalo.
Yeah.
How do you think they're going to feel? Oh, you know what? You can sit out. We'll go with Korpisalo. That's not happening. Okay?
No, I agree.
So
they'll get it done. It is a strange circumstances on the events there.
I don't normally ask for things to happen on shows that aren't mine, but I asked for this next one because when I watched it on the loop this morning, I went, yeah, that's how you do it. So this is how you inject humor on the desk and not kill the story, but participate in the story. Jermaine Franklin and Lindsay Hamilton on SportsCenter talking about the Oilers situation, and they do a nice little, I'm going to call it a skit, to sort of back up what they're talking about. And we'll score it after it's over. Take a look at it.
When someone or something tries to take what's yours, the natural reaction is to take it right back.
That's where my Sharpie went.
Many assumed that was what Edmonton was going to do when the St. Louis Blues signed Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway to offer sheets a week ago. But the Oilers had 7 days to make up their minds, and upon reflection, on the 7th day, Stan Bowman decided the compensation in draft picks along with the newly available cap space was their preferred option.
Well, what do we think? If you had to score it out of 10, what would you give it?
Oh, that's a 9.5. That's a great little skit.
That's funny. I'll give it a 8.8.
Really?
Yeah.
Hard marker.
An 8.8.
Wow. I give it a 10 with 2 stars beside it because for me, that's how you do it.
Tatman loved
It doesn't get in the way of the story. It adds to the story. And Jermaine, now I couldn't have done this. I would have just lost it. He just kept going.
He kept it going.
He kept going. I would have just.
That was good.
I would have
Professional
fallen
broadcast.
over. Oh, yeah.
Professional.
And he sold
there.
it with the look. He did the stop and he looked into the camera and I went, there's a star.
Yeah.
I liked it. I liked it a lot. And look, you're the guy that's qualified here. You've actually presided over a classroom in your career. Am I right about this?
Absolutely. Many classrooms.
So you've marked things. I've never marked anything in my life. So
The way I would always teach was if you could do something to add but not get in the way of the story, and that's what that does.
okay.
You're not the story. You're telling the story. So if you want to add to it, fine. Don't get in the way of it.
Now, as an esteemed instructor of the broadcasting arts, would you consider yourself an easy marker or a hard marker?
On something like that, it's really easy. It's either yes or no. I mean, it's either there.
It'd give
or,
you a giggle.
Yeah.
It'd give you a giggle.
I watched it this morning and immediately sent a text to Jermaine, and then I asked these guys if they could pull it just so we could have this little bit here.
Awesome.
Yeah. No, definitely. That's a top of the class.
All right, 10 out of
Right
10.
there.
Let's give it a 10 out of 10.
There it is. That's a yes guy. Thank you for that. Thanks, JP. And while we're on the subject of having hijinks planned and unplanned, Darrell Doucette, it works for the American Flag Football League, and he says he's better than Patrick Mahomes. He's a quarterback. Really? What do we have on that?
At the end of the day, I feel like I'm better than Patrick Mahomes because of my IQ of the game. I know he's right now the best in the league. I know he's more accurate. I know he has all these intangibles. But when it comes to flag football, I feel like I know more than him.
That's just ridiculous.
Oh, really, guy?
That's just preposterous. Absolutely.
Now, what would
ridiculous.
make anybody think they would have a better IQ than somebody else? I mean, what?
Oh,
How
I
does
mean,
that-
yeah, there's that. But you're talking about the best quarterback on the planet. Like a guy that is encroaching into Tom Brady territory.
Has a few
You're going to
rings.
say that you're a better football player than him? Like, I know it's, okay, sure, flag football, tackle football, it's two different games. But I guarantee this guy could go out there and make you look silly. Did you see the behind-the-back pass he made the other day?
That was great.
Bad timing for that statement, by the way.
I mean, there's never been a good timing for that statement.
There's his response. That's Mahomes' response.
Yeah, Mahomes probably thinking, is there another Patrick Mahomes I don't know about
Yeah.
that you're
Talking
referring
about
to?
me?
Yeah.
Like, is this someone who works at, like, the dealership out in Aurora that you're referring to? It's
I just,
You know what, though? Like,
outrageous
I
comment.
will say this. You can understand why the guys playing in the AFFL, the American Flag Football League, are a little testy right now because just when they thought they had a chance to go to the Olympics in 2028, because flag football is going to be an Olympic sport at the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics, now they're finding out, wait a second, the NFL players are expressing interest in playing in the 2028 Olympics.
Perfect.
And guess what? The AFFL, they might not have such a good chance of making that team.
No. I think I said there was another wide receiver, too, who's going off saying that he believes that they deserve the right to play. And like, you can make the argument, should pros be at the Olympics? It's an age-old argument that we've had. But, I mean, this guy, that's as if legitimately back in, was it 98 when the NHL got reintroduced to the Olympics? The 98?
Yeah,
In Nagano?
exactly. Nagano.
Yeah, that'd be like whoever made the team in 1996. I have no idea because they weren't NHLers.
94.
So whoever it was, 94. That'd be like someone saying, "Oh, I think I'm better than Wayne Gretzky because I know the international game. I can play the big ice."
But you
like,
would never
come
say
on.
you would never say you have a better IQ than Wayne Gretzky as a hockey
I could
player.
see the
Are
ice
you
better
kidding?
than Wayne Gretzky.
Really?
The big
Yeah,
ice out
really.
there.
I think you're always treading very dangerous territory when you compare yourself to Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, it's
let alone
But,
saying you're.
but think of the timing. This is like a day or two after the behind the back pass.
yeah,
That everybody that was
exactly.
plastered all over social media.
Not to mention the
in
back.
North
not,
American television.
not to mention the back-to-back Super Bowls.
I was going to say,
yeah.
there hasn't been a time to consider yourself better than Mahomes in the last, 5 years.
Probably, probably 10.
It kind of reminds me of remember the dad of Malachi Flynn, former Raptor, Malachi Flynn.
50-point man, Malachi Flynn.
When Nick Nurse was burying Malachi Flynn, his dad was exposed as having got on some message board and said basically like, not allowing Malachi Flynn to run the pick and roll is like not allowing Patrick Mahomes to play quarterback. I mean, it was kind of
That's
like,
the same
not
thing.
a great
Yeah,
comparison.
His heart was in the right
That's
spot.
same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, it's
And
a dad thing.
And I think he began the post by saying, I'm not saying this because I'm his dad.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Pretty
you are.
kind
But
of
I
are,
mean,
yeah.
you just sound silly when you start comparing mediocre athletes to one of the greatest athletes.
Well, I mean, LeVar Ball said that his son would beat LeBron or beat Jordan in a one-on-one game back in the day when LeVar was.
I think LeVar said he
Walk it
could
off.
take Jordan.
He
LeVar
said
had
he
a high
could.
opinion of himself.
Yeah,
But at least LeVar's guy, like some of LeVar's sons, can actually play.
Yeah.
Unlike Malachi, who's struggling to get playing time.
50 points, my friend. 50 points.
Okay, that was one game, Tat, man.
50 points.
Hey. Yeah.
David Ayers had quite the game too, buddy.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, bringing in a couple of old leaf warts here,
and still riding it, which is good for him. Coming up next, we're going to have Erik Kratz on, host of the Foul Territory podcast, talking some baseball, of course. Jays really good last night. We'll continue on OverDrive on TSN 4, streaming online, TSN 1050, and the iHeartRadio app. OverDrive today, Jim Tatti, Dave Feschuk, and Al's brother manning the controls. Tomorrow, I think it's Frankie C. and Strutty will be in here, and Friday it's just me and you, Dave. So that's a classic Friday in the middle of the summer.
That's
OverDrive.
Right. Holding down the fort.
Yeah, just you and I flailing at each other. Jays go at it tonight against Cincinnati. Rodriguez supposed to start for the Jays. Last night, everything worked. The night before, not so much, and that's where we are, right?
Exactly where we are. Kind of a no man's land, of irrelevance before we head into an off-season that's going to be incredibly relevant for a franchise that really can't seem to find its direction.
Well, they think they're going to be championship contenders next year, so it's better be a relevant off-season.
Do they actually think that? Or
that's the line, right? That's the marketing line. Wait till next year.
It kind of reminds me.
Tickets.
It reminds me of Doug Armstrong saying, people said I wouldn't have made these offer sheets to Kenny Holland. I would have done this to my mother. Well, it's a great line.
Very disrespectful.
It's very funny.
Very disrespectful.
Well, yeah, I wonder how his mother feels about it. But
that was a great line.
But do you really believe it? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Originally, I was thinking 2026, but then when I saw all those expiring contracts in 2026, I went, no. Oh, well, we'll see, right?
I guess we will.
Okay. Let's bring in Erik Kratz now from Foul Territory. He's the host of that podcast, former Major League catcher, former Blue Jay. Erik, how are you today, sir?
I'm awesome. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Our pleasure. So we're just mulling over this. The line from Blue Jay headquarters is next year is going to be the year. What do you make of all that?
Okay. I'd first say, who said that? And
the front office.
Does he want to Oh, the front office. Are they still looking to stay employed this year?
Good call.
That's what I'd say if I wanted to keep my job. But on the same hand, I heard you guys say it like, oh, yeah, expiring contracts in 2026. Not tomorrow. Next year is their window. It still is their window because Vlad is not guaranteed. Clearly, Bo does not want to stay based on his comments, but I'm going to say his comments were judiciously handed out to him by the contract extension offers or lack of that he was getting, because that guy was a player, and you don't just drop off at the age that he is offensively like he has this year without maybe some underlying, I don't feel like I'm really worth it. Maybe they need to make an extension offer that's worth it to me, or I don't like it here as much. But no, I think next year is still their winning window. And maybe I'm naive to think that, but there's no way that this offense should do what they've been doing this year, and yet they are, and they did it. They made it to the playoffs last year, and then the front office said, you know what, we made it last year. We're not even going to bring back Brandon Belt. We're just going to stay status quo. Oh, and we'll get Justin Turner.
Yeah, it didn't work out. I mean, there's no easy way to sugarcoat it. Didn't work out, and they're falling in front of their face. But we heard a couple comments recently, too, to your point, from Chris Bassitt over the last couple of weeks. Made a couple comments about, the dome affecting his pitching, and then he was on a podcast recently talking about how, this season has not gone right for the Blue Jays. They didn't have a pivot off of Ohtani, and basically said maybe some of these issues with the Blue Jays are unfixable. I'm curious, as a guy who spent a lot of time inside a locker room, how do you think those comments would have been resonating with his teammates and maybe front office, I guess, hearing those?
I mean, you want honesty. Everybody ultimately wants honesty. If you are around people that don't want honesty, you don't want to hang around those people, because the people who aren't being honest with you, you question what they're saying. So if Chris Bassitt, I didn't hear his comments, I would like to hear that podcast about, his his comments about the dome, because I hear hitters' comments about the dome, and they're saying, well, we can't hit as well in the dome the way they made the adjustments. And so if a pitcher's saying it changes it, who knows what he was saying, but I'll have to listen to that. To me, it's about honesty. Sometimes brutal honesty is what teams need, and teams that are not winning or measuring up to expectations, brutal honesty is exactly what you need. Like, because if you're not living up to expectations, you need to change something. And if you're not willing to change something, you'll continue to do the same thing over and over and over again. Vladimir Guerrero, I think he has taken the criticisms that he's gotten. Nobody's ever said, hey, Vladimir Guerrero doesn't hit the ball hard. They definitely think he hits the ball hard. Just not elevating the ball enough. Okay, well, why are you not elevating the ball enough? What can I do in the times when I can't elevate it? That kind of thing. And so you sit there, you want honesty. So in a clubhouse, while on the surface it might look like, oh, he's a bad clubhouse guy for saying that. No. You want honesty, and if it makes somebody better, then those comments are well worth it.
Hey, Erik, I wanted to get your take on something I saw last night around Major League Baseball, because you crouched behind that plate for, 11 seasons with a bunch of different teams, and I'm sure you can't even probably count the number of pitchers you caught. But what would it have been like, knowing what you know, to catch this Ben Joyce, who has already thrown the fastest pitch of the MLB season, and last night strikes out Bobby Witt Jr. on pitches that were clocked at 105, 105, and 103. What does that mean for the catcher when he's throwing gas of that nature?
Okay, so anytime I come on a Toronto radio station or TV station, I have to first ask, what position did I play? I want all three of you to say it, because Canadians call my position something different. So go ahead.
Catcher.
Catcher?
Well, I know what they call it, Erik. They call you back catcher, right?
Yeah, right.
Oh,
Right.
Old school back catcher.
Who does that?
That it is. It's some Saskatchewan guys or something like that.
Oh, guy.
Maybe somebody from Calgary or something like that.
Oh,
But
man.
anyway, no. Ben Joyce being able to throw 105 miles an hour is ridiculous. Like, the fact that, one, he was able to build up to that, because in college he was like a 93 to 97 kid, and as he built up throughout college by his draft years, junior year, I think he touched 103. And you sit there and you go, or maybe he hit 105. I'm not 100% sure, but you sit there and you go, really? Like this is humanly, physically possible? And there's only a few people on the planet that can do that. Aroldis Chapman hit 105 just the other day because Ben Joyce did. Like, he shows he can still do it. I don't understand it, but as a catcher, you sit there and you go, what pitch should I call? Gee, should I call a slider? Oh, no, this guy has 103 in his pocket on the daily. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and see if this guy, the best player outside of Aaron Judge in the league this year, can hit 103. Those are the kind of matchups that you want. Even if the Angels are playing, the Jays, and as a Jays fan and an Angels fan, they're both out of the playoffs. You want to see Vladimir Guerrero versus Ben Joyce. You want to see that. That is must see. If it's three pitches, if it's one pitch and Vladdy shoots him off the third deck, like, you want to see that matchup, because that is unbelievable to be able to have that type of arm. And you see him everywhere in the game. Everybody's throwing 100, and this dude's 5 miles an hour harder than the dudes who I am super impressed with that throw 100.
Well, I was just wondering, is there a level of speed that actually kind of makes you afraid as a catcher? Is there any level? Would you be a little bit trepidatious back there?
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, if the ones that make me scared are the dudes that throw 100 and they're squinting in, and then they call timeout and they go, hey, I can't really see your signs. And I'm like, whoa. No, I want to know. I want you to know that I'm calling a fastball when I am and when I'm calling a slider, because just like these hitters aren't able to react, I'm not able to react if I'm thinking a slider's coming and you go 105 to my grill.
Yeah, you want to ask him if he can see the plate.
Exactly.
I want to go back to
Yep.
I want to go back to Bo, because I just think we're going to be spending a lot of time on Bo Bichette. So we've had people on the shows that I've done where he's been accused of information overload. They're putting too many thoughts in his head. And you're talking about the contract situation. And we had somebody on the other day talking about the return for a trade with Bo, and it has to happen sooner rather than later. And the return was sort of what they got in the Kikuchi deal, which might be good, but I think it'd be a bit of a disaster for the franchise. So how should they have handled this, and can they still salvage it?
Can they still salvage the relationship with Bo or the trade market?
No, well, I guess salvage it for the betterment of the franchise. So there's a political statement.
So which is better for the franchise is what you want me to figure out for Jay's organization. You know what? The organization has to understand that each individual player needs different things. So you talk about information overload. Bo Bichette is not Davis Schneider. Davis Schneider ground his way to the big leagues, didn't get his opportunity as early as Bo. Bo came up in the game. He learned from a guy who played in the big leagues, his dad. And so I'm not saying he doesn't want information or he does. I'm saying that you need to get to his level and see what makes him the best player. And as far as him returning as a Blue Jay, you need him to either be the best player that he is so you can get the most for him, or you need him to be the best player that he is so you can get the most out of him and he plays on your team, because he can be a valuable piece. He's led the league in hits, I think, twice in his young career.
Yep.
He is a young player, and he has an opportunity to do, or the team has an opportunity to do something every time he's up to the plate. A guy that can get 2 hits a night is way more valuable than the guy that can get 1 hit a night. It would be like saying in hockey, hey, I've got a guy that really, really, runs blue line to blue line well, but doesn't score. And you tell him, hey, I need you to score. Okay. That doesn't apply. So Bo Bichette, if you're sitting there going, I need you to be Gold Glove defense, which he's not, and I need you to hit more home runs, you're asking him to be somebody he's not. And there's some kind of disconnect with the organization and him for him to say the comments that he's not pleased there. But I also think if he can be happy, even traded, if you can make him happy traded, then you're getting more value out of him, because he's going to go to another organization and most likely give you the kind of haul that you want. And I don't think it's going to be a Kikuchi type of haul. I'm thinking it's going to be, I would love to see Bo Bichette a 1-for-1 with one of the starting rotation guys from the Mariners. I would love to see a 1-for-1, 2 big league teams that are still in the playoff hunt, and not just can we get 4 really good players for Bo Bichette? I just feel like Bo Bichette is a starting shortstop in the big leagues who can lead the league in hits. And the org, this will be career defining, whether it's Ross Atkins somehow still keeping his job, or it's the next GM and president that are now, tasked with trading Bo Bichette or keeping him or extending Vlad.
Hey, speaking of guys that throw 100, Erik, we've been very fascinated with this Paul Skeens arrival in the big leagues. There's been talk the Pirates might shut him down. Now it seems like they might not, but now the talk is, will this guy be the National League Rookie of the Year? Where do you think he sits on that race?
Fortunately, we're doing this on August 21st, and so if we had done this 3 weeks ago, I would have said, yep, National League Rookie of the Year. The Pirates are still in it. He's going to lead this team to close to the playoffs, but just fall short. Now, the Pirates have absolutely made this an easy decision for me. because to me, what Jackson Merrill is doing on the most exciting team since the All-Star break, maybe not the best team, but the most exciting team, San Diego Padres, Jackson Merrill has pushed himself, to me, into the favorite for the National League Rookie of the Year. And I hope it goes down as a mistake for the Pirates, because had they called him up earlier and he was in the top 2 in the Rookie of the Year voting, the Pirates, who refused to spend any money, would have gotten a draft pick for calling him up and him winning or getting second place in Rookie of the Year. And he would have had a better shot because he would have pitched all year in the big leagues. And he clearly could have been up, but they didn't. So I think it'll be Jackson Merrill. But, man, oh, man, Paul Skeens' future is really bright.
Erik, thanks very much. We enjoyed the conversation.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. Erik Kratz, former Major League catcher and host of the Foul Territory podcast. I like how he approached the Bo thing. I mean, that's really what the team needs to do, is get a star player back. I mean, it's great
Old
to get
school baseball trade.
Yeah, it's great to get futures, but at some point you have to get a present.
If you're going to contend in 2025, for sure.
Yeah,
that'd be great if you were trading from a position of strength.
Well, but that's you sort of map that out though. You want to get him in so he's contributing. So it jacks the interest.
Ideally,
yeah,
ideally for sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, you're right. Like, it's great to go down to the trade deadline and bring in a bunch of prospects, and
that's part of it.
They're all lottery tickets, but it doesn't help you in the here and now. It doesn't help the argument that you're making yourself as the front office of the Toronto Blue Jays that you are a contender in 2025.
Well, he's a young ball player. I mean, wherever he goes, he's going to do well. So you've got to live that down.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. But I mean, trading him off a down year is going to be tough.
Let me take a page out of the boys' playbook here on this show. Jerry's percentages that he's with this team opening day next year.
Oh,
I think it's high. I think it's probably 80%.
Really?
I don't think I'm that high.
No,
I think it's more likely just because, like, it's baseball. It's tough to make moves like that, and they want to contend. So I think it's more likely I'll probably go like 61%. 80 seems quite high, but I think
it is
61%.
I'm going to go 55.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because between Bassitt and Bichette, there should be a pretty good trade or trades there if you want to. But again, if you're going for it in 2025, but the Bichette thing is just got a trigger on it. If you don't satisfy him, he's out.
Well, that's
gone
it.
For nothing.
Like it'd be tough to go into next year without a deal for Bichette, right?
It would be.
So if he can find something this winter, great. If not, I'm guessing you're going to be picking up the phone and seeing what's available.
Coming up next, and I think, by the way, Erik was at the Yes Guy Academy. I could hear all those people in the background.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Big crowd.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's kind of what we do at the Academy. Coming up next, we're going to go over a few things. OverDrive continues on TSN 4. Also streaming online, TSN 1050, and the iHeartRadio app. OverDrive, Jim, Tatti, Dave Feschuk, and Al's brother with you. OverDrive is brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Did you know that Happy Gilmore #2 is on the way? And Adam Sandler guesting on Jimmy Fallon last night, talking about Travis Kelce confirmed for Happy Gilmore 2.
What can you tell us about a Happy Gilmore sequel?
It's good. It's good. Like, we worked hard on the script, man. We didn't want to let anybody down. People have been asking me for a long time, do Happy Gilmore 2? And I was always like, nah, I'll only let you down. But then me and my buddy Tim Herlihy, we came up with this idea. We're really excited about it. We rode our asses off. We're continuing to try to make it a movie that you guys will like, and I think we're excited. So many of the golfers are being nice, and they're going to be a part of it, and all. And a lot
told me there's going to be some cameos in there.
There's going to be a lot of that. Yeah.
I heard, do you know Travis Kelce wants to be part of this?
Yes.
He's talked about it on the podcast.
Yes. Travis he mentioned it, and so we have a nice something for Travis. He's going to come by, and he's cool, very nice guy. You guys would love him in real life. What a big, handsome guy, and funny and cool as hell.
He's a stud.
He's a stud, and he's so funny.
There you go.
I've got the scene. I've got the scene where he comes in. Travis Kelce will be Happy Gilmore 2's version of the Bob Barker scene.
Yeah.
You just get Travis Kelce just filling in Sandman at the Pro-Am. What do you think?
I like it.
That makes sense.
Great visual.
I mean,
I could visualize it.
I could see it happening.
That is one of the sad angles. That is one of the sad angles of the sequel is that Bob Barker, sadly, no longer with.
He will not be a part of it.
Died last year at age 99.
Yeah.
Speaking of studs, I mean, what a stud that Bob Barker was.
Hey.
But yeah, like, wouldn't that be a little bit? That's a bit of a mismatch, though. Wasn't the beauty of the Bob Barker thing like?
Well, you did put Drew Carey instead.
An unlikely tough guy.
You were Drew Carey.
I mean, I think Travis Kelce beating the crap out of Adam Sandler, not exactly kind of surprising, Al's brother. Is that really comedy or kind of like cruelty?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess you can make
Could
that
go either way. Could go either way. I like it though, man. I like.
Well, Jason Kelce.
There you go.
Together.
Yeah, maybe they need both.
In the lucha mask.
There you go. Hey, man, maybe you get on the writing team. Call up Sandler. Did you see the casting call? There's video of the casting call in New Jersey today, guys. 12,000 people showed up to try and get a part in Happy Gilmore 2.
We'll get into that in hour number 2.